It's no country that escapes the wrath, and it's nobody that can change the past. So when we kick it with the people, strive to always be true. This water's full of evil, don't let it deceive you. It's all make believe. Respect that.
How's it going, y'all? Derek Barlocelli. Just wanted to pop in real quick and let you know that Kris Nelson puts out a lot of top-notch work, including some images, slides, infographics, if you will, that I've used in past projects, actually. You know, some of those audiovisual, lyrical, mystical music mixes, right? Holy shit. Come to think of it, I've collaborated with this brother about like 20 times. Whether it be through Europa Natural Law, Libercast chats, whether it be that Francophone connection or otherwise, and sometimes catching him on the good old End Evil podcast. And hey, we even had him on Dissolving the Divide. And yeah, he's put out a little series titled The Law of Freedom, and he has been doing live streams of them and also opening up roundtables. So at the time of this recording, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to share in this specific video. Yeah, obviously I'm going to, highlight the roundtable portions that I participated in, and yeah, I don't want to take things out of context because we do go over some of the aspects that Kris brought up in his presentations. So, yeah, I need to review some things and maybe just throw in some inserts or kind of... Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Did I throw out too many spoiler alerts? No, just kidding. But, yeah, there's going to be some really cool cats that are coming on, Fred, Brandon, and even Theo, and yeah, it's just cool to come together and just pass around ideas and inspirations and just takeaways from Kris's work. So yeah, I recommend you guys check this out, and hopefully it might motivate you to put out your own, refine what you already have established, and just take the daily, steps and attitude of, walking in alignment to, what we need in regards to just embodying what a sovereign human being functions like. So, yeah, it's easier said than done, with how it's simply stated, but yeah, gotta start somewhere. So thanks for tuning in, and yeah, please check out evolveconsciousness.org, and yeah, his YouTube channel, Kris with a K, Kris Nelson. Find him on YouTube and Odyssey. So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and then I worked on this one. I was going to do the law of freedom before morality, and then I realized, well, no, the morality is part of the definition of the law of freedom. So then I switched. I'm like, well, I got to do morality first, because that was my whole thing. How do you define freedom? Well, you got to define slavery, because it's the absence of slavery. And then how do you define slavery? We got to do rights. That's why I did rights, then slavery, then true freedom. And I was going to do the law of freedom. And then I realized, oh shit, right? Morality is part of the definition, so I got to define that first. And then, yeah, I got into a whole boatload of a long, long mess. I ended up with whatever 130 or something. I forget how many there were, but yeah, it was a lot. And yeah, then an 8-hour presentation, my first one to ever be that long. So less people will watch it, but maybe this way, with the Law of Freedom one, get some more people to be able to want to look at something that's an hour long in different parts, and then maybe I'll do a fresh version with like all the slides together, because it was turning out to be huge. I think there's more slides than in the morality presentation, so that's why I was like,
Wow.
and I keep working on it, and I'm like, it's so like big to just go in all my images and try to like, okay, this goes here, and try to reorder it. So I'm like, okay, the first part's been done for a while, so I'm just going to put it out, and then I'll just do section by section. It'll be a lot easier than trying to jumble everything all together and put it in sequence. And that would probably go to another presentation at the end of April or in May or something. So this way, get some more content coming out quicker, I guess.
Sweet. He'll definitely, he will he'll stay tuned in.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you...
Is Derek in the
Oh shit! Thanks for...
Yeah.
Oh shit! Yeah. Let me know in the chat, Derek, because it's in another window, and yeah. So,
Yeah.
All right, we gotta... I had pre-planned for at least 2, so if anyone else comes, I'll have to add another source.
Video Ninja is kind of like tricky to use. It's like it's different than some of the other, like platforms as far as like hosting people. But it's like once you get used to it, it kind of becomes, like it's pretty nice.
Move.
Oh no, I'm covering you.
Where's mine?
How's it going, gentlemen?
Right. Okay.
Nice.
It all worked out. Sweet. All right. Thanks for popping in.
Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
a noob at this. It's my first time doing live streaming. Plus, I'm not using the easy software of Restream or StreamYard. I'm going hard mode on my first time.
Yeah.
It's all to the good. And I got to ask you real quick, because were you inspired after the last Europa Natural Law conference? Because you did a quick little live stream test after a chat with Anarchy.
No, well, I had already planned. I decided this
Okay.
last week. That,
right on.
That I was yeah, go ahead.
It just popped in really synchronistically, I guess, because, I kind of mentioned the Law of Freedom really briefly in that chat, and then boom, you were just, talking about that exact thing right after. So yeah, that's cool. Yeah, great presentation, by the way. Yeah, as always, brother.
Yeah, that one was just laying the foundations to get people to really understand. Like, I hardly talked about the Law of Freedom apart from the first slide, and then it was really to understand, well, what makes something a law. That's what I had to... That's what I went into this, like when I mentioned in like the second slide, well, I thought about it a lot, because I questioned, well, is the Law of Freedom actually a law? Well, what makes it a law? I had to go looking into that and, figuring it out. And so that's why I wanted to present it, so that people can really understand, and like, oh, that's just some mumbo jumbo spiritual nonsense or whatever. And well, no, it's like, what makes a law? Well, everyone understands gravity, right? You're not floating off into space on the earth, so how does that happen? So I like that one because it directly relates. It has an equation, and it has the initial causes, which are mass and the distance between them, so how big the mass is, and that's how Law of Freedom is comparable, because you have the behavior, and that's the initial cause that leads to the resulting effect. And so it was very relatable. So it makes it a basis that people can relate to and understand the law of freedom better. I have, I think, 4 more slides that relate the law of freedom and gravity. And like, I have different sections. Some are bigger than others. Some are like 30 slides. That one's just like 4 slides, but that'll be coming up. Maybe in the next one, I'll get to that point. And I'll just answer, Alex PM asked the question. I'll show it again, but I showed it a while ago there. How old was I when I made the Trivium videos? Maybe 10 years ago or something. So I'm 41 now. And the first set of Trivium videos were Language and Reality series, where I had the Trivium in there. And that one was 2014. And then I made like other stuff, philosophical metaphysics. That's the foundation of the Trivium. That was based on Sister Miriam Joseph's book. That one came shortly after, and that one I think was 2014 or 2015, early 2015. I don't remember. So it's been 10, 11 years. And my major graphics uniting the Trinity of Consciousness with the Trivium in that sequence of events from thought to, knowledge, input to thought, to understanding, to emotion, to wisdom output, and then as action. That one was the beginning of 2014, taking a lot of stuff from Passio and mashing it together into a visual representation.
Yeah, and I just got to say real quick, your slides, going back to that, like they can be so informationally dense, and yeah, like I think I recall, watching some of your presentations, from like even a decade ago, and you could be just a 20-minute block just on one slide, just because there's so much to talk about, like, and like even, we can go on for an hour or so just on like one slide, because there's so much, and you have a really brilliant way of conveying information and concepts as well. And so, man, hats off to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
41 going on 21? Is that what you said?
What?
41 going on 21? Because when I shave, like I have a baby face, but Kris, like you literally,
If I shave, I have
yeah.
like a Keanu Reeves type of thing. I don't know in his early days, but I guess he's in his 50s now. But if I shave, I look like a teenager or something. I'm aging gracefully very well. Positive or negative, you don't look older. People want to look older. Well, I've always looked young, and I guess it's beneficial in my old age. I'll be a 50-year-old teenager or something.
Proof of, living in alignment to natural law and all that good stuff, yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's the non-carnist vegan plant eating. Maybe that helps. Whether it actually makes you live longer or not isn't the reason I did it. So people can argue this science or that science, and either way they want to argue it, but I just go based on principles, foundational principles to live by, rather than the science that says this and then someone's got counter science. So I think the science for the plants as being very beneficial for health is pretty strong, but people can just bring up other stuff and just counter it and disregard everything you're saying. So I think the moral foundation is more rock solid. That is, if people have the care developed to actually care to let go of their ego calcification, to actually look at it objectively and see, like, do animals matter morally at all? Do they not matter at all? So let's just go walk around kicking dogs and cats everywhere? Well, no. So then they do matter morally. So then you just need to develop that more and think about it more, and then align your behaviors with what you realize is true. And that's a process that people don't really want to engage in, that shadow work, that part of the shadow work, especially when you look at yourself and your behaviors and what your behaviors are doing. Well, that's what people don't really want to look at, is how they're doing something wrong, because they just want to believe everything's good with however they do anything. And they can just keep doing it because that's just a perception versus the reality of, well, is it good? Is it wrong? Or is it right?
One thing that you talked about was um true principles versus false principles. And I was thinking of the term proxy principles, PP. But one thing that I've encountered, when you are trying to, to talk with people and you are trying to explain them about, objective morality, and you bring up that word principles, and then of course, how you can define it, like the first thing, first foremost, the base layer, how the foundation, and then once this individual starts talking, or the person, who you're talking to, and you kind of compare principles that I have, versus their principles. And that's, I think, when you can see kind of the distinction is, we're operating our, like we're talking about true principles, and they are, of course, talking about proxy principles, PP. So I'm glad you had brought that up, because I had never really, like thought about it too, like too much. But can you really build off of proxy principles? Like, can you really build off of, false principles? Because I would say you can't. So I'm glad you brought that up. And of course, I'm gonna to have to watch this presentation, a couple of times, because you're talking about like deeper, like concepts in metaphysics, kind of, possibly going to lose a lot of people, but fuck it, so be it. But yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because now when I'm, incorporating these things, of course, I learn from other people to, add these tools into my resume to try to, spread this knowledge, and, try to help inspire others. That's something that I can, possibly, help look at too, to try to explain the differentials and principles, because, like a lot of people will put, like making the most money as one of the core principles. Well, then, okay, well, what does that lead to? Then you start doing immoral things to try to get that money. So is that truly a real principle? No, it's not. So it just gets back, like to what you was really talking about. And then, you had the whole, law, can be equated with principle, and, like just a phenomenal, her presentation that I'm really gonna have to go back and watch again. Yeah. But yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because like I've always said, you will possibly the one person who could take Mark Passio's work and actually build on top of it. That's something that I hope that I can do, one day. And I hope many others, can, build upon your work, because that's what we are all trying, or we all should be doing, is, learning from, others, and trying to add to the conversation, and, build help upon their greatness by adding our own greatness. Like that's what all the great teachers and philosophers, and, like the great wise sages, did. And I'm very, thankful for that. But yeah, you are like the one pioneer who I know of. And if there are any other people out there, please, please send their name my way, because I would love to learn from them, and, go deeper in my knowledge and understanding, because there's still so much to learn. And Chris, like I honestly think that you are like you are at the forefront of, trying to go deeper and to convey these concepts out. Because on Tuesday we had a question asked by Rick, and it was kind of a more, like if we was to have a true society based on natural law, and like he asks a good question, that hopefully one day will need to be answered. And Chris, you talked about in your early presentations how, if a wrong is done, of course we talk about responsibility, and good moral individuals should be able to stand and take that moral responsibility in the now. Well, Rick's question was like, well, what happens if there is a violent, murder, in a free society, and there's nobody there, to rectify the situation? Then 6 months pass, like then he's getting into, like consequences and repercussions, like which you covered in your work. But it's like those are some good questions that should be asked, hell, of course, so we can have great minds, um, try to answer that question. But it's like I told Derek and Rick, I'm like, man, we are so far from even being close to that, because we can't get people to understand these basic concepts. So when it comes to, like how, steps B, C, and D, we can't really get to that because we haven't gotten to step A of these simple concepts. So we can't, like get to these later, like deeper things that we should be talking about when it comes to building communities, based on a natural law, and how we can go about, truly rectifying wrong behavior, and all of what that's going to take. But hell, of course, what I said was, it comes down to the now and being able to be responsible in the now. And the longer time is put in between that wrong action, then the more problems you are going to, have, can occur. So it's just those kind of questions, of course, like which your work has answered before. We need more great thinkers like that to, to be able to help us get to where we say we want to go, because yeah, even if we understand, natural law, and if more people did, then you have to go into the steps about actually building true communities, in the world based in freedom. And that's what we're all trying to aspire to. But until we get through those baby steps of people actually learning, this basic knowledge, we are so far from that. And it's sad.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the kind words as usual. I know you appreciate my work. You're probably one of the person who appreciates it the most out of the few people who know of my work. So I always appreciate your kind words and appreciation. It's good to have feedback, and makes you realize that some people are getting it and some people gain value from it. So that's good, because it's hard. Like a lot of people might create content, and if you get no feedback, then it's like no one's. You don't. Like someone might think, what are they doing it for? But I didn't have much feedback when I started, so don't let that stop you. I put it all out and did a lot of work, and then years later people come across it, and then if you put it out there, then people can gain value from it, even if you never hear from them. You might never know the impact you have on someone's journey and on the path of truth to gaining more truth and self-actualization towards moral truth. But if you never put it out there, then, well, it's for sure that no one's going to be impacted by your work because you just never put it out there. So, and yeah, all these, the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way to Z, what steps are you at? Well, the first step is always, you need that moral truth, or else you're not going to get anywhere. And, whatever happens, it's what's happening now and what happens then is all going to be based on what I've come up with. It might be a lame term. I call it the principle of quantity. I've mentioned it on the Europa Natural Law a few times. So it sounds like, what, quantity? That's not a principle. That's just like a property. Like if you look at an equation, well, there's quantity in the equation, so that's just a property or a part of the equation, but it's not a principle. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the aspect of numbers. Numbers matter, and it doesn't matter where you are, because a democracy is just whatever, the supposed rule by the majority, even though we're not ruling. It's just you're tricked into voting for someone every 4 years to be a master or ruler, and you perpetuate the plantation going on with just a different plantation manager every few years, and then it just keeps repeating. But the quantity is what determines what happens. So if a bunch of people right now, we're letting what it is now be what it is. And if people have moral knowledge and are ready to actualize it in a quantitative manner, hence the principle of quantity, then that will reflect what that area is, whether it's a small town or a big town or a big city or a state or province or a country or the planet. Well, it's all going to start where those people are at. So it always requires a quantity. So if everyone's like, well, let's just put, if someone breaks the law, then you can take them and put them in chains and well, that's what it's going to be, and that's what it was in the past. You look at the movie Gladiator, whatever, fictional representation or whatever, but the guy was part of the elite, and then he got framed for a murder or something, and then I don't know if he was framed, but anyways, he went back home, and then he was just like kidnapped, and oh, well, now you're a slave. We just decided all of a sudden, well, you're just a slave because we got more weapons than you, so now you're a slave, and everyone just accepts it. Well, that's if everyone accepts it, then that's the way it is. If powerful people can just go around kidnapping other people and then put them in to work or to fight for their own gains, then that's what the society will reflect. And that's what it is everywhere. So the only thing it comes down to is, well, what is everyone agreeing to do or to allow in the aggregate? Are they allowing immoral things, or are they going to not allow immoral things and make sure morality is what prevails? So it's all based on the principle of quantity. Anyways, I don't know. That's the term I'm coming up with, because it's all based on quantity, but there might be a principle of numbers is another way I've referred to it. But and another thing you mentioned on building up on other people's work. Well, that's what my purpose was when I started my work, because Mark Passio was an inspiration for all of us. He's he has referred to himself as the person who's put out the most work on natural law, and that's true. And he's put, like, I forget how he said it, but it's similar to what I've said before I even heard him say it. Because one day I was listening to like the podcasts, and I was just thinking, like, he might have said something about psychology, and psychologists have told him that he's told them more about some workings of psychology than they've learned in their education. And I was like thinking, like, oh yeah, and then the people are like into Jordan Peterson, who's a psychologist in Canada, or was. I don't remember what the situation happened with him there. He had to go for sensitivity training or whatever issued by the authorities of the psychology college or whatever. Anyways, I was like, oh, some people would listen to him for psychology, and I'd be like, yeah, but Passio understands psychology better, because he's getting at things that even Peterson doesn't even touch and doesn't even comprehend. And I'm like, it doesn't matter how many books you can reference on something. You can reference 1,000 or 1,000,000 books. You could come out with something that no one's referenced. So it doesn't matter if you've studied Heidegger or Schopenhauer or Hegel or that crazy German guy there. Anyways, I forget his name. I forget all the names. I haven't studied much of them. What?
Nietzsche's?
Yeah, that's the guy. Yeah. So that guy.
Yeah, Friedrich Nietzsche.
So like,
yeah.
people think you like, oh, you don't know much about philosophy or this or that because you haven't read all these works of the past. But so what does that matter? Are they talking about morality and actually getting to the definition of the most important thing that anyone can know? No, okay. I'm not saying they don't have any valid work, but I'm saying you could read all the shit on philosophy over all of human history and read 1,000 books, and you're still not going to gain the value that's missing if you're not going through Mark Passio's work. So I've regarded Mark Passio's work as the single greatest source of information that anyone can go through on this planet that has ever been created to date. The single greatest source. So I'm trying to build on top of that. And as I created content at the outset, my goal was to go deeper into certain things. So he'd explain it to a certain extent, and then I wanted to understand it more. And so I try to dig into it more and then explain that in a deeper sense. And that's what people who I used to talk to at the time who have said about my work. They're like, wow, your work is like Passio's, but you're just going deeper into it. And yeah, that was my goal, is to, because he's already explained it. And that brings up another aspect of the importance of being a repeater, of being a broken record. So I think there's a lot of aversion in people doing the great work of getting people to accept moral truth. So that can be many things, like teaching about psychology and the shadow work and cognitive biases and logical fallacy and how to think and how to learn. that'll all help towards being able to accept what moral truth is and learning what moral truth is. But then the end goal is always the moral truth, and that's to end immorality, to end slavery, to end evil. And that's what I based my morality presentation upon, and that's how I derived those two levels of morality, was based on creating evil or ending evil. And then the second layer was, well, you're participating in it. So you're not creating it, but you're participating. If you're participating in it, you're creating it. And the second level is tolerating it. So you're not creating or participating in it, but because you're tolerating it, then you're not working to that ultimate goal of ending evil. So it's the second level of immorality. And I forget where I was going with this, but I jumped onto the morality presentation and I lost my train of thought.
You're talking about taking Passive's work further and all that?
Okay, yeah.
Cool.
I forget. Sorry, guys.
No worries.
What did you laugh at, Brandon? You laughed at something, and I think that's what I was going off of, my point. You, like 2 minutes ago, you laughed, and that's where I was
honestly, yeah, like my brain's kind of all over the place. I'm tired. I got a bunch of shiny technology, blinding me and shit, like 5 damn screens. So like my mind's all over the place.
No problem.
Oh, sorry, Derek. You can go.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Let's take it back to the quanta aspects real quick, because it's like human beings are so powerful, and we underestimate how powerful we can be, and how quick perceptions can change, I think, as well. And I'm thinking about the what's up, Fred Libricasto? Fuck, I thought he was going live earlier, but anyways, y'all understand the 100th monkey effect, right? And all this, and taking it from the microcosm to the macro, and kind of like a quantum leap type of thing, where someone using, like, we're talking about principles, right? The Hermetica, mentalism, and then the correspondence that follows, right? So if people on the individual level really get their mind right and act upon that, with that heart-based intelligence, right? And it could catch fire in these, like grassroots type of community type grass fires. I forget the word. Excusez-moi, my French. Yeah, it's kind of late for me as well over here, but it's just, I feel like there are ways for people to just have these aha moments with just it's like, it's so simple sometimes with the basic things that we're talking about, and it sucks that it seems like just such self-evident, overwhelmingly obvious information here, right? But it's, the human spirit has been totally conditioned out of that with that, the inversions and perversions with the whole satanic divide and conquer crap, right? But yeah, if we continue to have that quality food of thought, I think we will. Yeah, it's like, Kris, it's like being aligned to natural law. It's kind of like the awakening process of that is going through the youthing process as well, I feel, because you're just operating on more quality food of thought first and foremost, and like, not everyone's even close to being a breatharian, but I feel like if we're on that path, we could possibly get there. But yeah. Maybe not even in this lifetime, but shit,
Yeah, it's definitely a multi-generational effort to get to that goal.
But the goal is just to cause the least amount of harm as possible, right? So for anyone out there, to whatever capacity, whatever, bodily makeup and blood type y'all got, it's like, work with that, and continue to go through these bio-spiritual regenesises, if you will.
Yeah, least harm possible. That's the sacred feminine. Do no harm doesn't mean that, like, people take it too literally and like, it's impossible to do no harm, blah, this is bullshit. Why would you even adopt that philosophy, that principle? Well, it's not about literally doing no harm. It's about, as a goal, just like the goal of self-improvement, betterment, being better than you were yesterday, and working on yourself and trying to be better, do things better. Well, it's not
Yep.
about being perfect. That's the do no harm is the equation. It's equated to like perfection. Well, you're not going to reach perfection. It's just like it's an ideal to strive towards. You're never going to reach it. Well, do no harm isn't like never do any harm. Well, it's impossible. You know, we go out, we drive. You're gonna walk on an ant or whatever. So things happen. So the point is, in your efforts and what you try to do is, you try to recognize how the things you are doing can be improved upon, even though you're not going to be perfect, and you can improve upon not doing harm, even though you're never going to do no harm. But that's the goal, the ideal goal.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
like the mind state, right? Yeah, Brandon, go for it.
What y'all are talking about, I got into a conversation with a friend, hell about that because I was trying to get him to understand about taking the high road, and he was like, "So in every situation, you were supposed to take the high road." And in 99.99% of situations, if your life is under, threat, violence, then no, you use self defense. But yeah, in all other cases, then yeah, you choose the high road, like you choose to do what's moral. So then, of course, people's mindset goes straight to religion, you know, and like all of the, have the religious teachers. So then, it's like, well, you're not perfect. You can't be like this person. It's like it's not trying to be perfect. It's not about perfection. It's about the realization. It's about the awareness of right and wrong first, then making the conscious moral choice. You're not going to be successful in doing that all the time. Yeah, like there's going to be times, how where you fail. How there's going to be times, where you falter. That how there's going to be times where you may be successful. But you're honest about that, and you don't lie about it, and you learn from it. That's what it's all about. It's getting better, being better than you was. Like Kris said the day before, and that's really what it's all about. But yeah, like when you start talking about how being moral, people's mindset automatically go toward how Jesus or like all of these other teachers, because that's what they kind of how equate it to, and that's kind of like what they have been conditioned. So when they see someone truly trying to teach morality, like that's exactly where they go to, and it's like, no, it's not the same. you know and then, Kris, one last question. Why the color purple?
Well, that's based on my, like I mentioned in the Funnel 4 conference. I think it was image 3. Well, excluding the title card, so I guess it'd be image 4, somewhere around there. Spectrum of living. That was just to briefly mention. I'll get back to that. But I started when I was 30 by coincidence. That's like supposedly the age of enlightenment or whatever. And I look back at then, and I don't know what it was, but like I recognize that like I came up with some fucking original shit. Oh yeah, that's okay. Spectrum of living, we'll get back to that. And that's what I wanted to talk about before was I just remembered the aversion we have in the great work that people do not want to repeat what other people said. This is what I'm noticing, is that what's the most important thing? Moral truth. So moral truth and getting to that's the great work, right? So everyone's already talked about it, pretty much. You can maybe find some new things to talk about, like I try to do, but maybe someone has already talked about that before. I'm just not aware of it. So like this whole thing of nothing new under the sun. And what I tried to do early on was I was trying to find, so this ties into what you just brought up, and that's why it triggered my memory, because I was trying to find new things. I was trying to bring novelty. And I think that's a hindrance that people can have in doing the great work, because they're like, oh, well, I can't think of anything new, and someone's already said it. Like, it's been said in the, maybe it was the One Great Work Warriors, or when there were roundtables, people mention, oh, well, I did this presentation, but then I didn't release it because you guys already talked about it, or something like that. And even in regards to natural law, oh, well, Passio's talked about natural law. He's done the most work on it, so I'm just going to be repeating what they say. But that's what is needed, is the repetition, is being the broken record, is being, that broken record. I'm going to bring Fred in and try to talk while I think of this. But the whole point of that was because the spectrum of living, when I was 30, getting into this, like I was technically 29 for 1 month before I turned 30 in the January of 2014. So I started my site at the end. But I wasn't really doing work, so I started just doing articles of like Passio's present material, because it needed to get out there. It wasn't out there in text mode. And so I wanted to... Oh, whoa, he's taking over.
Yo, Fred.
Yeah, I wanted to...
Hey, what's up, Fred?
I was trying to just create new content, right? That was my focus. I wanted to do something new. So that's what I'm thinking back of. I keep thinking back of when I was 30, and I came up with some original stuff, like the Trinity of Consciousness with the trivium, fusing that together. No, I hadn't seen anyone do that before. I fused that together, made an awesome infographic. I made the natural law, alchemical distillation, putting that into a visual mode to put that teaching all together. There was the spectrum of living was another way to do that. And that's why, getting back to what you said, Brandon, see, it's all coming back. I didn't forget this time, is the magenta. So in the spectrum of living, there's it's fusioning the RGB and the CMYK color modes in computers, so red, green, blue, and the cyan, magenta, yellow in the color wheel. So you see the full color spectrum, and then it associates it with different concepts of, so juxtaposing matter and spirit, and then us, the consciousness, human consciousness, the self in between, and you have negative qualities of apathy and all those failures, and then the higher qualities of moral alignment. And then at the bottom, where the magenta was, that's where I had natural law as the boundary. So that's where that color comes from, and that's where I used... So if you go through the spectrum of living and then you go back to the Funnel 4 presentation, you'll see everywhere that I use the colors, it's based on that spectrum of living color coordination model that I made, So
Right.
that's where it comes from.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense, because I remember in your spectrum of living one, I think you talked about the colors, and that's when I realized, like, man, this this dude knows his computers. Because when you talk, I'm like, when you start talking about like colors you find on a screen, then yeah, this person knows about computers, because colors are important, especially when it comes to creating our presentations. You got to pick your colors wisely.
Yeah. What's up, Fred?
Hey, bonsoir. Bonsoir, messieurs.
Oh, wait. I have... Yeah, okay, sorry. There's one more setting I forgot. Remember, this is... I'm a noob. This is my first time. Okay, it should work now.
Bonsoir, messieurs.
There you go. Hey.
How you doing, guys?
All right.
Hey, what's up, Fred?
Hope you're doing great, man. I happened to take a hiatus on the podcast for a few months. I needed to put my attention in, somewhere else. And in this case, it's my family. I have a big family, so I'm very, very busy. Hard day at work from time to time, but I don't have anything to complain about. I'm very well. I don't miss anything, and one of the things that I wanted to bring is this scarcity mind control thing. I know there's a tendency that I want to point out in the future is the victimization aspect, and this one is very heavy, and it's in a whole can of worm in this case. And I was talking about morality and good and right and wrong on the French tonight before I come here. I was talking about it in French, and I was telling people, like you said earlier, um, violence is real, and violence can be a lot of different things, and we have learned to tolerate all kinds of violence, all sorts of violence, and we're not reacting to it, and that makes us immoral being. And when you realize these things, and those are my understanding through shadow working. um, I had to look at myself first and confront myself about these certain things, and your perception about yourself and your perception about the world will change when you align with natural law and you understand this gift that we have, that is intuition. I call it our sixth sense. This is our compass there. We know when we're doing something bad. Everybody do. If you have this feeling inside of you. So what I brought up, and I don't want to get too much out of what you were talking about, and I was talking about the death of imagination and the consequences that are attached to it. I kind of pound this information, this stuff on the French side, because there we have a lot of problems there, and one of this problem is in ignorance and complaisance, and it's very destructive for the people who know what I'm talking about. Ignorance is the root of all evil. Literally, I took this statement quite literally. I can see ignorance everywhere, and the ignorance of these facts that about natural law and psychology. This is evil. This is pure evil, because all the rights of the people are violated in the way, in the work, in this work, at least. What do you think? What do you think, people, about that?
I wouldn't say it's pure evil, but it's part of that equation of how evil manifests. Because, well, as I mentioned, the principle of quantity. If
Yes,
everyone just lets it happen, well, then that's what happens. And is it
yes,
going to go
it's
away? Well, it's not going to go away because we just
yeah,
keep letting it happen. And that's
yeah.
why morality is
Critical
so
masses.
important. You're not going to
Yeah,
have the moral unison of people acting together to combat that if
yeah,
people don't even know what morality is, because you can't do something unless you know how to do it. So if you're trying to create a moral world, well, you can't do it unless you know how, and that requires morality. It's like riding a bike or building a
hmm
boat. You're going to build a boat. Well, you need the knowledge to do the result, and the result that people say they want is a good world, but they don't even know how to create it. And that's why Mark is so fucking frustrated, because I think he takes it a little too personally. Like, you know, the world hasn't changed. Yeah, in the aggregate it hasn't, but look at all of us. We've been changed. So there is a small impact, and you're not, one person putting out work isn't going to change the whole world, because that's never how it
sure.
has ever worked, and that's never how it's going to work. So it's not a realistic expectation that if you devote yourself to the great work entirely and don't do anything else or whatever, that,
We can still fucking try to
yeah.
dug out of this shit. You know, trying
Well,
to
if we don't try, then
take a
it'll never
peek,
happen.
take a peek outside of the fucking pile of garbage. That we I understand Mark's reaction and the way that he's reacting. Um, I feel this frustration too, man. It's very hard to be conscious. It's a heavy weight on your shoulders, because we're living in this immorality, and we're constantly trying to confront it, and not committing violence ourselves. Stopping violence means that sometimes you have to go farther, a little bit harder, to stop this violence, you know and when I'm talking about violence, essentially I'm talking about psychological violence and emotional violence. This is the priesthood of mind control, and solipsism, and moral relativism. This is implanted into the culture. I know you guys know all about this, but it's very important to remember ourselves that we are part of this machine. We're the clogs of it.
That's
So
why you got to do this type of stuff. Maybe not a live stream, but write some articles, write a book, do something, and then you're countering. That's what I explained in my morality presentation, is that if you're not, even if you're not participating in the creation of evil, you could still be doing immorality level 2, which is tolerating it. So we all are part of that toleration because we're one individual or 4 people, for example, versus 7 or 8 billion. Well, we're not going to make the world change by our physical actions. It requires other people to morally unite, and then things can actually change, because that's the whole principle of quantity thing that I mentioned, that I came up with. And so to offset even though we do participate in it too, because of our the taxes and whatever way we pay them, everyone pays the sales tax. So we're all participating in this machine as much as we try not to. And the only way to counter that level, even that level of participation that we don't do voluntarily, but we do as part of our existence in the current way that the principle of quantity works out, with everyone agreeing that, well, we're just going to live this way. The way to counter that is to do the great work, is to do M2, morality level 2. And that's the highest level of morality. And if you're not doing that, then you're not countering your participation, and you're still engaging in immorality level 2, which is to tolerate it and not doing anything about trying to end evil.
yeah, your work is incredible, man. I keep on repeating it. I fucking like it.
Thanks.
Your presentation, and I told you earlier, when we were talking, that your slides are awesome, man. I like it. It's very concise, man. Very easy to understand. It's a lot of stuff when you start from nothing, but when you have the basics, it's very, very concise, very clear, man. I like it.
Yeah, like Derek mentioned, you can spend hours talking about, like, for example, the circle of life or the egg of life one, because there's so much in there, but then you can go deeper and deeper into each one and explain a lot about it. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and I think some of these decent freedom fighter advocates could really benefit a lot, because what was going through my mind thinking about what you guys are talking about, yeah, like to get a large number of people to really have some kind of effect. And I spoke with the gentleman, Fred, I think, yeah, it was that guy, Steve. You had him on your show as well, one-on-one, and he was talking about how, well, if we could get, just like this whole region of people to drive their cars without license plates and that kind of stuff, and start a movement like that, and maybe that could spawn other things and this and that. Like, yeah, it's not a bad idea. Yet, like, are these people with their without the driver's license? I mean, yeah, like, so that it's only going to work if a certain quantity does it. Otherwise, it's like fish in a bucket for police officers to, there's just like a couple people, easy targets, right? But are these people, moral people in general? Do they understand these natural law principles and that kind of stuff to even like get to this equation of freedom, right? Because we need that moral collective to, tip the scales towards freedom in that sense. So yeah, I find that, yeah, there's this contrast of all these freedom advocates, yet people have certain pieces to the puzzle, maybe higher quantity than others. Some of the pieces of the puzzle got little chips and are distorted or tainted or whatever. And but who actually has a decent image of what the actual picture looks like, so we know where these pieces of the puzzle actually fit in and go, right? Things to consider.
There's too much noise for sure.
That's why we gotta amplify the voice of truth by putting out
Oh
the
yes.
content, even though it's like a drop in the bucket. That's one of the analogies in one of my slides to explain the principle of quantity. Is if you have a big bucket of red paint and you put one tiny blue drop, well, it's still pretty much a red bucket, and you can look at that as freedom. Well, if the freedom is the natural state where you have a blue bucket and you put one red drop, well, the bucket is pretty much blue, right? But it's not true blue because there's red mixed into it. So it's not true freedom. As soon as you have immorality, you're robbed of true freedom. That original state is degraded, and then we need to do the work to restore it. So it could be temporary, and then it technically restores itself, but then there's the aspect of defense and getting justice and the repayment of a debt for something that was stolen. But when it's persisted as persistent enslavement, then you have that red is just there permanently. So you're not having that true blue. That true freedom is gone until that persistent enslavement is removed. And right now we have a lot of red, and the blue is pretty faded, and it's turned into like purple, if not going into like towards the red even more, because mix red and blue, you get purple when you mix paints. So yeah, we got a lot of work, and that's why you gotta do articles or write a book or do a video or do audio, do a podcast, put the information about either morality, natural law, or how to get to it, to get people to eventually get to that, to accept it. And that's how we're going to combat all the garbage out there and all the propaganda is we got to be that counterforce. The voice of the lie is very strong, and we need more voices of truth being spoken into existence.
Yeah. And I would like to add that let me tell you something. We're almost alone. From what I saw in Quebec and the people around,
Or in the world.
or in the world, this is a tiny part of what needs to be done. We're not even fucking scratching the surface of something. When we have to be realistic and bold about it. We have to fucking fight and go through the foliage and make your own way. And it's not easy, because I on my side it's okay. I mean, I don't have bad people and people sending me like crap message and things like that. It's very respectful, but it's very, very limited. Even if I cover 2 languages, it's very limited for the importance of the information. It's rather sad, depressing.
Yeah, because our information is just being drowned out by all the lies, and like that's the problem. Is we can do a podcast like every freaking week, something like this freaking weekly, but you got you know, the propaganda machine putting out hundreds of thousands of videos each week compared to what's actually coming out, about how natural law, about, shadow work, about, occultism. So we need more hands on deck. And even if you don't want to be like in a video, you can do stuff behind the scenes. You can donate. There's people, who need video editors. There's people, who need people to bring people into live stream, to manage the chat. There's something that you can do to help assist. How maybe you're good at, bringing people together. How maybe that's what you may be good in. How that's what your craft is. How maybe you have, like organizational skills. What can you bring to the table? It may not necessarily be, creating content, but can you do something behind the scenes? If not, how can you donate to the ones who are trying to, get better equipment to try to put this information, out there? Because that right there in and of itself can be a task. You got to have, hardware. You got to have microphones. You got to, have lights and stuff, to do it, have the correct way. You got to have a good, a laptop, a good desktop, good audio. So there are plenty of people who can possibly help do stuff behind the scenes and, just help kind of manage things, to where you may not have to be on camera, but you're still at least lending an effort. You are still getting involved. You're still using your hands as a form of action to help spread this knowledge, to help spread this information. And I think a lot of people get stuck on, oh, I have to create content. That's good, but if that's not what you want to do, then get involved behind the scenes, because there is a lot of behind the scenes work that is involved with stuff like this. If you're good at video editing, man, you can just like edit people's videos as far, as like presentations and stuff like that. And that's how you contribute to this kind of work. Just some food for thought for people.
Yeah, and also the simple classic thing of just sharing other great works with people that need to hear it more than those that kind of get it, right? And my little add on to that is, please be inviting and a little bit enticing, if you will, when you're sharing these things. Don't just drop a link and expect people to click on it just because you dropped a link. So, yeah, think about that. Proper etiquette, chat groups, social media, all that stuff.
I don't have the time for this, man. I'm doing my podcast, and then I'm way over it, man. Seriously,
Yeah.
I'm working on the presentation, and it's gonna be a long one, but it's gonna be in French. I try to get the French side, um, and
Yeah,
and
let's keep going with that.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
and
fucking fighting.
that's a good thing too, because the more voices we have in multiple languages, then the more potentiality that we can, reach other minds. So yeah, like we need more people, speak, like bring this kind of knowledge in other languages.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh man.
Oh, yeah, real quick, just to bring it when you were talking about, like folks in academia, like the Jordan Petersons and this and that, and just all these people that have read, hundreds, if not thousands of books and this and that. Yet, yeah, without that integrated knowledge and doing the inner work and the shadow work and all these things, yeah, it's just like this egghead academia aspects of people that it's like those are the ones that want to refute the information we're talking about. Unfortunately, it's like, oh, we're not on their academic level because we don't have a master's degree or all these things. And yeah, it's a shame. There's so many gaps that are they even possible to bridge? Does it even matter, or do certain institutions just need to be razed to the ground alchemically and then built up from the ground up to have proper foundations woven hermetically sealed in the fabrics of society or whatever, right? That's a tall task, but yeah.
Yeah. So
Um.
go ahead,
Oh, sorry.
Jonathan. Yeah.
Oh no, hell, I was just gonna give my link because I had saw the last question because it's getting late here and I'm probably going to sleep soon. But yeah, hell, you can find me on the One Great Work Network. You can see my big ass head, and you can see me on Odyssey, BitChute, Rumble, in case anybody wants to see what I have to offer, and then check out the 24/7 live stream, which of course all of our work is on, and a lot of other many great content creators, and just trying to keep the information flowing so other people can learn and hopefully not have the message of truth drowned out. So, and that'll probably be the last thing I have to say for this recording. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. Thank you so much, man. It is a big jump today. Reborn from the ashes. I'm the host of the Laborcast. I'm on YouTube, Odyssey, Facebook, and my name is Frank Gingras. I'm gonna put the name there on the YouTube in the comments so that people can go straight to it. It's a bilingual podcast, so it's French and English. So there's a francophone part in the page. So if you understand French, and there's the French Connection podcast on the Libracast. By the way, it's all there. You click on that. I got great people there, all French people. So it's French for the people who talk English and you don't understand a word of it. And yeah, I enjoy these kind of conversations. We need them, between us and from with the people outside of it. And like to complete what you were telling about truth telling and things like that, I mention all the time, don't believe me, just do the work, go see for yourself, go read the book, go look at the presentations. And shameless plug, just like that, the shadow work seminar of Mark Passio, I'm gonna be there, people. It's gonna be fucking awesome.
Yeah, hell, I'll probably sign up soon.
Yeah.
Myself.
Eh
Shameless
oui,
plug.
mon ami. Allez-y. Yeah, we'll definitely get a proper second season of the Francophone Connection, hopefully. And yeah, with Kris Nelson as well. We've done some videos on Europa Natural Law, and some folks over there would like to participate on the French side of things. More on that later. But yeah, like I got a lot of music I've been mixing that aligns quite well to natural law, including specific references to that. And I have a wonderful podcast with Leslie Powers called Dissolving the Divide. And yeah, all that work is on the One Great Work Network. And y'all might see me actually established there as a content creator.
Yeah, everyone
I got the
here
invite.
is
So yeah.
everyone here is on the One Great Work Network. So if you just go there and look, we got this way. This way is Brandon Spencer, and then we got Fred Gingras, and then we got Derek Bartolicelli, and me, Kris Nelson. You can find us there, and got all our YouTube and whatever links if people have set that up. And it's probably the easiest way to one-stop shop. You can go to, then branch off and find all of our content just going to the One Great Work Network. And that's to end on that. There's one of the podcasts, and either 2019 or 2020 when Mark came back from his one of his several hiatuses and started up the video podcast version that he's now ended, it seems, for good. In there, he talked about he has that needing to fill up cups of empty water, and that's everyone, right? And then you have people who are the pitchers of water. And, well, that would be us, because we have the information to give out. So we got to put it out there so that the others can take it into our cups. And also, he has an infographic where the pitchers they're all there, but he had like golden lines like connecting them, right? So that's what the One Great Work Network. I think he was explaining like his idea behind the One Great Work Network, and that's what we're doing here. As you see, we're all connected together and to provide information on a stream. And you can do it solo. I did it solo for a long time, and Brandon's done presentations solo, Fred's done stuff solo, Derek's done stuff. So, but when you know, we're social animals. I'm pretty non-social by whatever defect of mine. I'm a broken human or whatever, but I'm an introvert. But anyways, I appreciate these conversations because it's not inane banter, whatever that term is that people use for small talk. Yeah, I hate small talk. I'm not good at it. I'm like silent everywhere when people just want to talk about bullshit because it doesn't interest me. So if you network with people, you know, there's one of another idea I had was to do. I don't have the time. That's why I never started it with like trying to finish presentations. But I was gonna call it like the Great Work Launchpad, or the Great Work Tutorial, or tutoring. So it'd be to bring people on who don't know how to start and do like the open tables, Europa Natural Law, all that stuff. Is you bring people on to like, you know, maybe you could look at it as spoon feeding them or kick them in the ass or something. That like, well, try this and try to just talk about it. Like, but then eventually you got to do your own thing. So, you know, articles or just audio, and then you can do video. That's how I migrated. You know, it was just text. So you didn't hear me, you didn't see me, and then I did text into audio. So then you could hear me. And then when I came back in 2023, well, now I had videos, and this is the first time you could see me. So, you know, there's a progression you can go to. So if you're shy, you can build it up, and you don't have to start at the end right away where we are at. And you don't have to come on to these podcasts or do this type of networking. But if you can find other people, I think that's one of the things people are like, they want to do things with other people because they're insecure and they don't know how to do things themselves or start themselves, or they're unsure, or they don't want to fail. So they feel if they're like in a collective, in a group, then they have the reassurance of other people. So if that's what you need to get started, then yeah, find some people to do that, and then you can get started that way. Or just do articles if you're really shy like I did, and then you can build up and then be like, yeah, okay, I'm going to read my articles, because that's what I did. I was reading my articles, put some slides in there, and then you read it, and then eventually you can do presentations. You got to start somewhere. So even if you're introverted, like I am, then you start with the most introverted thing, and that's just writing, and then you can build up over the months and years and get into it. Or if you're social and you feel you need to be social with other people, well, find people and do a round table and talk about stuff. That's what the Europa Natural Law is. All those people, they most of them don't have their own content, and they just do Europa Natural Law. But that's something. They're getting together, and I guess they build a self-esteem to eventually create content as their goal. And for now, they're just in there, and they're taking steps to get there. So I'll just end it there, and if anyone wants to say anything else, otherwise,
yeah, just real quick, because
go ahead.
there's folks that have taken Mark Passio's course on how to be, you know, one true media. So that's a great reference for people to understand and, you know, build up their skills. Fred, go for it. Sorry.
I just wanted to say bonne soirée tout le monde. Faites attention à vous autres. En attendant.
Hey, not everyone here speaks French. someone
like,
translate.
Gibber.
Yeah, like I'm the one person here who doesn't speak French, so kind of left in the dark here.
I just said take care, people.
No, it's all good. It's all love.
Well, thanks everyone. I appreciate you guys coming in and watching. Those who watched the presentation, I'll be uploading just the presentation itself as just the pure presentation, not with the live stream beginning and the ending here, the Q&A and discussion. So that'll be available in its raw form. But appreciate you guys coming on. I like
Yeah,
these
I appreciate you,
conversations. And tune in. I'll be doing several more parts of the Law of Freedom as a series within the Natural Law Science of Morality series. And when I get another one done, well, I'll put it'll be scheduled, and I'll post it on Facebook sooner than the day of, like I did today. And hope to see some people coming in and asking questions, getting more clarification, and joining in for an enlightening information sharing and discussion at the end. I always appreciate that. So thanks a lot, everyone. Take care.
All the elders and the youth, it's time to expose the lies and uplift the truth. Come on.